So my talk is officially called "Everything is Awesome" with an exclamation point, and that's because they asked me for a name of my talk, and I thought, well, there are so many things I'd like to talk about, and I'm not exactly sure what it's going to be, but all of it's pretty awesome. So let's start with that. And so I told Bobby earlier that I've done 5 or 6 different versions of this, and I think I'm going to do another one now. So, you know, I'm really good with conversations with people. I'm less good at talking at you, and so maybe if I ask you guys a question, maybe you can kind of participate in a conversation with me instead of me just telling you a bunch of things. So my first question is, what were the last 3 businesses that you spent money at? And anyone is fine.
Downtown.
Okay, downtown. That's awesome. Antidote, okay. Starbucks.
Grocery store. Coffee.
Which grocery store?
Kroger.
Kroger. And that's the body language that you have when you go to Kroger. That's what I do. I had to go to Disco Kroger.
No, not the Disco Kroger.
Oh, no. Which one did you go to?
Westbury.
I don't know what the camp for that one is.
Post Oak.
There's Death Kroger that I go to on 20th because it's next
No,
to.
this is Indian food Kroger, Jewish store Kroger.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Um, So the last 3 businesses I went to in order were Shiloh Club late last night, and right before that I went to Grand Prize. No. The last place I went to was Revival Market this morning, and I had coffee and some kolaches, which was good. It's interesting to think about that sometimes, because you know, I don't think about all the time, you know, where I spent my money, and I don't think a lot of us do. But I think it carries a lot more weight than we realize. I mean, there's been the last year and a half that we spent on the election that just passed, and it was a big deal. It was a really big deal that we picked the right guy and that we donate and we spend our time and our energy on this decision. But I would, and I think it is a big deal, but I would argue that the way that we spend our money every day has a lot more to do with the type of life that we live. I mean, just where you go get your coffee, or where you go get your groceries, or where you buy your clothes or something like that. So that's kind of what I want to talk about. I also brought this comic strip with me. It's Calvin and Hobbes. And I wanted to read it to you guys because I think it's hilarious. I was reading it while I was researching my talk. So Hobbes says to Calvin, he says, "What's this?" And Calvin says, "It's a generic snowman." And he's got a little hat and a pipe. He says, "I used to make original snowmen, but it was time-consuming, hard work, so I said, heck, this is crazy. Now I crank out crude imitations of what's already popular. It takes no time or thought, and most people don't care about the difference anyway." And Hobbes says, "Well, it's so cynical, yet so practical." And Calvin says, "Well, and what good is originality if you can't crank it out?" And I was like, Bill Watterson did this a lot. He's obviously kind of commenting on what he does as a cartoonist, I think. But I experience that all the time with businesses that I spend my money on. And I'm like, God, it really is so much easier to do something like easy and to get it out of a box or something than it is to think about it and think about what it is that you're doing. And to try to create a business around that is, you know, apparently it's next to impossible, because there are very few of them that I see that have a purpose for being beyond just making a little bit of money, or maybe even a lot of money. So I'm going to get back to the actual structure of my talk in some ways now. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm going to tell you some more stories. So a few months ago, I went to Macy's because I was getting ready to go on a trip to Louisville, Kentucky to drink bourbon. And I had to have a nice outfit, and I realized that I didn't have any of my clothes, the clothes with me that I wanted to wear on it, so I had to stop at Macy's in Greens Point Mall. Have you ever been to Greens Point Mall? Oh my God. And so I stopped at Macy's and I thought if I run into Macy's really quick, I can get a shirt and I can still make my flight and everything will be fine. If you haven't been to a department store lately, it is an awful, awful experience. It's big and cavernous, and there was almost no one in there. And it looks like the clothes on the racks had kind of been the same clothes on the racks for many years. And the employees there just seems utterly distraught about working there, or just like that they couldn't care less, and they were literally just like, if I can get out of here without anyone talking to me today, then I will have been really successful with my day. And so I asked the lady about a shirt, and she kind of gave me that impression that she was really not interested in talking to me. And I tried it on, and then when I bought it, she took the shirt and like put it in the bag, and I was like, oh my god! And I took it, and then, and the whole time, the the alarm that goes off when you walk at the door if you steal something, it was just going off intermittently, like every 30 seconds. And this is awful. It seems like one of the circles of hell to me that you have to live here all the time and work in this environment. And it just the music was awful and real tinny and far away, and and the thing was going off, and they were just living in this environment all the time. And what a terrible experience. So it's really bad. And then, and that made me think about like what is acceptable and what we think is okay as far as the way the businesses go. So I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about myself, which is a topic that I really love to talk about. And then I'm going to go into telling you a little bit about why we run the business that we run, the way that we do, why I think it's important. And then I want to kind of elaborate on this the situation of like businesses who are there. I mean, this place was huge. It was a 30,000 square foot department store. I mean, with obviously tons and tons of money behind it that was just sitting there. So something's okay. We've said that that's okay to some degree. That the fact that it exists tells me that. And then I think that there's something we can do about it, and that's very exciting to me. So on to my favorite topic. So I would guess that I'll stop interrupting myself. I would guess that most of us grew up in or still exist in a middle class kind of, we consider ourselves middle class. I grew up that way, and there's no real sob story about that because we had everything that we needed. But there is a general sense of being middle class that you don't, or that it's like we had a budget for what you're going to spend on groceries that week and what you're going to spend on school clothes for the year and that kind of thing. And this made a big impression on me, and this has a lot to do with the business actually. And so while money was not always like a big, money was not always something that we had, but we did have. My parents were very principled in the way that they brought us up. And there are a handful of things I think that, even if they didn't express them in words, that were very clear to me at this point looking back. And independence is a huge thing for us. Like the idea that we could, if you want to get something, you should go out and do it. And as a result, I've been working since I was 11, because it wasn't, I had to work so hard. It's because like, well, I want some stuff. So I need to be able to work to have that. And education was another huge thing. So I was a Montessori child for most of my education. And one thing that's very apparent to me now about the Montessori environment is that it teaches you that what you do affects other people. And that's a very, it's expressed in the material. And so I take all those things, like my middle class upbringing, my sense of independence, and the idea that what I do affects others, and that has a lot to do with why I wanted to create the business that I created. There's also another part here that I don't know where it came from, to be honest with you, but there's a sense for me that there is very little time. It really seems sometimes that life is long and you kind of wait for time to be over, and if you're working at Macy's, maybe you're like, God, I could just wait for this day to be over. It'd be so great if we could just be done with this day. And Benji, who's the chef at Downhouse, is here. He told me a story a while ago, and that I can very much identify with. He was talking about how he had a little bit too much to drink the night before and was hungover. I'm sorry that I'm introducing this with everyone. And he said he was just sitting there and he was just like, God, I can't wait for this day to be over and I'll feel better. And then he said he realized that wishing for that day to be over was really wishing to be one day closer to death. And then he thought to himself, I never want to wish that again. And that was very moving to me, and I've been thinking about that a lot since then. And so every day when I wake up on the way, I think, well, what can I do? What can I get done today? And what kind of good work can I do for the business or for myself or for other people or something like that? And then, God, like the idea that, like, you know, we think about elections as being like this valuable time because they're every 4 years, and it's just like, we only have this one chance. I'm like, we only have from today. This day is only going to come one time. And so for me, I'm just like, we have to, it's like, I feel like just running because I think that that's the way to get to something quicker or that I can get something done more than I can just run to go do it. So in any case, when I had the opportunity to create this business, we decided to do it differently. I felt differently than I saw it done in other ways. And there are two things I think at the heart of it that made our business what it is versus being any other place. And one was the values that we created for the business, and the second was the purpose that we decided to build this business on. And if you've ever read, there's a book called Built to Last, and it's kind of a business staple in my opinion, and I love Built to Last. I've read it many, many times, and I quote it all the time. And it just refers to these, I mean, I read that and I thought, okay, well, we have to do this. We have to make sure that we have values, and we have to make sure we have a purpose that keeps us in line, because people approach us all the time about carrying one product or another, or does this have anything to do with what we're doing? No, it doesn't. So no, I don't want to do that. You know, or do you want to like carry this frozen pizza? And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. I definitely don't want to do that, because I can like know that that's not what we're about. So in Built to Last, they asked at the beginning, when you're deciding what your values are, you should ask yourself, if I had to choose between making more money or upholding this value, which would I choose? And so we had dozens of them at first. We're like, this is cool, this is a cool thing that we want to do, this is a cool thing. But as we asked ourselves the question, would you rather make more money or would you rather uphold this value, we whittled it down to 5. And so the first one for me is community. And community, I mean, a lot of what's going on here has to do with community, and that's one of the reasons why I'm really glad to be here. But I think at large that the idea of community has to do with being a part of something bigger than yourself. And I think that's, I mean, and we even mentioned it as part of the hierarchy of needs, which I thought was a nice reminder. But we express that in a lot of different ways. I mean, it starts with the idea that, you know, as a restaurant or a business owner, you get kind of approached constantly with people asking for donations for an event or something like that. And there was a time where I said yes to 99% of those, but then kind of I started realizing that I would be able to focus more and have a better impact if I focused on either a certain kind or just a region that I was going to always be able to make a more of a difference in. And so, so anyway, so I focused on charitable organizations in the Heights, and I thought that was a good way to do it because we're in the Heights. So the next one is quality, and you know, the important thing to remember with values to me is that it's not really about like how it's stated, but really just how it's executed. Because a lot of places could have values that look exactly like these, or that state these exactly that same way. But the difference is in how you live those values and how you represent them in your business. And so for me, the idea of ingredients are really important, and sourcing not just locally, but like quality locally is kind of a priority for us. And the cool thing about sourcing ingredients that way is that I get to work with people who really enjoy what they do. And another part of the conventional wisdom in the restaurant industry is that everyone's just kind of trying to screw each other. Like your vendors are trying to screw you, and so you have to kind of screw them back, and then maybe you can like hide a box of something, and so no one will see, and then you'll get a better deal on it. But what's really cool is that when I kind of started, or remembered that was such a part of the industry, I realized how often that doesn't happen to us. Like, and we're working with people who are excited to sell to us because they're proud of what they're serving and they're glad that we're able to serve them. And that's a really nice feeling as well. Hospitality is the third value that we have in us. In hospitality, I always like to make the distinction between hospitality and service, and to me, hospitality is just about the attitude. And it's really not something that I can train people to have. And so I look for that when I interview people, and that's really the way that I kind of serve that the most. Another thing I think about a lot with hospitality is that it's a genuine attitude of giving, and it's not something you can train. And it's something that we have to give as the business owners to our employees, as well as our vendors, as well as our guests. And I think we generally think about it just in terms of the guests, and we're just like, oh, we're being very hospitable and got a nice environment. But if we're not, and if I turn around and yell at my employee or throw a plate at him or something, like that happens a lot more in kitchens than you might imagine. But certainly not ours. Then it's kind of, you're just doing it for show, and I don't want that to ever be the case with us. The fourth value that we carry is education, and I love that as one of our values because we have the opportunity to show people new things that we're doing, or show people things that we're excited about and that we really think are cool. It's also kind of part of our business model, because if we're doing things that are different or a little weird or that people are not used to, they might come in for the first time and go, I don't know what any of that is. I'll have a burger and a glass of red wine. And a burger and a glass of red wine is a really nice thing, and it's so great to have. But there were a bunch of other really cool stuff on the menu that you took a lot of time looking into, or like drinks that we thought, well, that sounds cool. That's a really interesting thing, or something that we made up ourselves. If we don't take the time to show people and talk about why we're excited about it, we'll drink a glass of red wine and eat a burger, and maybe they'll have a pleasant experience and then they'll leave. But if they have a singular, an interesting and unique experience, they can take it with them, then they're gonna go, oh, I had this really crazy thing at downhouse, it was awesome, and then I had this weird cocktail with it, and I had Belgian like double IPA beer, it was really weird, but it was so much more awesome than I expected it to be. Like, oh, that's really cool, okay, well maybe I'll send my friends there. And so that's a really important part of the business, not just the fact that I really like showing people cool stuff. And so the last one is fun, and if you've ever been to a wine class or to a cooking class, then you know that it can be very boring. And I've had a handful of really boring wine classes that I've been to, and I thought, man, we're talking about booze. This should be a lot more fun than this. And there's some like really important and cool details that you can go over when you're doing this, but we're really talking about drinking, and that's a fun thing, and that's why I'm interested in it. It's fun. And so that's another really important thing that I try to remember all the time. So our purpose. The idea behind the purpose is that the purpose should not change, and it should never be able to be reached. It should be like a 100-year goal, something that you will always be trying to perfect and make better. And the way that you kind of come to the conclusion of what your purpose is that you talk about, well, what you start out and you say, well, what do we do? And I can say, well, I sell quality food and drinks. And you can ask, well, why is that important? And then you ask, you ask that again. You ask it 5 times. You say, well, why is that important? Sometimes I psych myself out because I ask myself, why is that important, like all the time? And the idea about, well, why is any of this important? And why is this conference important? And why are these other things really, really important? And there was a point at which I was doing the version of this talk where I was going to turn it into like a really weird, like kind of cosmic like thing, but I don't think I should do that right. But I'll be glad to talk to you about it later. So we sell quality food and beverages. Why is that important? Because people need good food for nourishment. Well, why is that important? Because well-nourished people are happier with one another. Okay, well, why is that important? Well, because building communities contributes to our long-term happiness. Why is that important? Well, because informed, nourished communities can ultimately make the world a better place. And so I'm not, ultimately our purpose is to build educated communities around great food and beverages. And that's what I'm trying to do every day when we're working. And it gets really easy to get frustrated with one part of your job, no matter what it is that you do, but then I'm going to go back and I'm like, this is in service of building a community. This is in service of building an educated community, which is, I think, a very rare thing now. And that makes it so much easier to get past the thing that I'm doing. Like, is this in service of it? Yes, it is. Let's go. So there's that part. I thought that we were at somewhere. So what are some businesses that you have experienced that you can feel like a discernible purpose at? Have you experienced one of those lately? Anyone? What would one be? What? Yeah. I was hoping we were going to be here, so I've mentioned it 5 times.
Chris, hella lucky because you'll have people talk research on it later, but the idea of selling sweatshop free goods and upcycle and our local art, that's a place that when I go in, I feel it's not a store, it's a way to keep.
Yeah.
Farmers.
Yeah.
It's a business, and it's.
Yeah.
Or like the new Walmart they put in the Heights. Bottom line, the other day, where did I go? Arnie's.
Right on. Well, I'm glad you missed Walmart, because I have a whole spiel on Walmart. The first thing I thought was that, when I saw that was being built, and my business is on Yale, and I live in the Heights there, and I was like, how much better would it be if I could drive past a Central Market or have that be a Central Market instead of a Heights? And I love the experience of going to Central Market. I mean, like, I don't think that there are very few like businesses that like are totally admirable. And I don't know that they are one of those, but it's a really enjoyable experience. And I think that at the very least I can start with that, and it's the opposite of going to Macy's, basically. And I think that's really cool. So yeah, that's, and I had a couple of businesses that I looked into that have a discernible purpose, and while it may not be one that is completely community oriented or like had an idea to like change the world through a certain cause or something like that, it's cool to be able to see that there are businesses that do have a purpose beyond that. And so for example, right? How many of you have an iPhone? Like a lot of us? Yeah, I have one. So Apple's purpose is to delight customers by creating innovative, robust, and beautiful products, and I would say they do actually a really good job of that. They're again, I don't think Apple is a perfect company, but I think that their success has a lot to do with their focus on their purpose, and I think that's a really cool thing. And I have a whole list of other businesses that I think have a great purpose. So Brazos Bookstore, if you all ever been to Brazos Bookstore, what a great business that is. And to me, like, their purpose is extremely clear to me when I just walk in there. I mean, and when you see the selection of books that they have, like, this is just not a commodity bookshop. It's a bookshop that's like very focused on what it's doing. And I think that's really cool. So the big problem is, like I said before, that I think the big problem is that we let businesses get away with it. Like, we're okay with it. We kind of I don't want to say let our guard down, decide that it's okay for them to treat us the way that they treat us. You guys have had that experience before, yes? The idea of going into a business and feeling like you weren't being valued, or that, here's a really good one. Ones that promote, like, spend a lot of time and money or energy promoting values that you just know that they don't have. I was watching the news the other day, and all the commercials during the news were, started out and they were like, we helped 800,000 teachers, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, I'm like, that's cool, and then again, it was like, ExxonMobil, like, there's no way you're going to have me believe that this is like, what's at the heart of what you do. In like 3 in a row were like energy companies that were like, we help people, and we're not as terrible as you actually are. I really was more concerned because one of them, this is such a good one, I'm going to read it in a couple minutes. So are you guys familiar, or have you ever heard of JBS? JBS is a meat packing producer. They're the largest protein provider in the world. They're based in Brazil. This is their mission statement on their website. To be the best at what we set out to do, totally focus on our business, ensuring the best products and services for our customers, solidity for our suppliers, satisfactory profitability for our shareholders, and the certainty of a better future for all our employees. That is the most nothing statement that I've ever heard. Why, you're like basically like, you could put that on any company. I could be like, that's actually our motto as well. It means nothing. And they're also just a terrible company. So here are the 3 things that I'd like you to do, because I think I've over them already. When you're thinking about going to to businesses, or you think about the way that you spend your money, I would spend a little bit of time. It takes 10 seconds to really think about where you're going and what you're doing. Seek out an understanding of the purpose of the business that you visit regularly, and I would start with the ones that you spend the most money at, like the grocery store, the power company, or the place you buy your clothes. And that would be the first thing. The second thing would be to give constructive feedback to businesses that do have a purpose so they can continue to improve. One of the things I've become a huge advocate for is giving people time to come into their own. Because Lord knows when we started, we did not have it down. And I really, really appreciate the people who were like, I really love what you're doing, but here's what I would do instead, you know, and I'm just like, you know, they're right. We've got to deliver on everything, not just our fantastic purpose. Yeah, and so that is actually the third one. Be understanding and give businesses time to develop, and it's really not easy to open a business that has purpose. It's so much easier to open a Starbucks because they've done it 16,000 times, you know, and they've done it a million times. So it's like, you're gonna get it faster. You know, it's gonna be like a price that they have done their market research on that we have determined that is acceptable to people. But like, you know, I went to my favorite example right now, because it just happened to me, is I went to Juicy in the Sky, which is a juice place on 19th Street. And I went in there, I'm sorry, I really want to tell stories. I went in there and ordered a juice, I was with Mindy actually, and she recommended, it looked really great, it had coconut and you know, all those kind of things in it, and she started doing it, and I was really expecting her, I would not have been disappointed if she had got a can of like coconut water and poured it into the thing. That's what I would have expected. She brought out a coconut, and then she like hacked it with a knife, and then she opened it up and poured the water and the coconut into the blender, and I was like, oh my god! I mean, like, coconut's one thing I don't buy very often. There's a lot of other food that we do buy, and I know exactly what they cost. I don't know what a coconut costs, but I was like, there's no way that that's cheap to do. You know, she was like hacking at it and pours it out like, and it took like 15 minutes, I think, for the two things we did, but I was like, this is a place that has a purpose. I mean, they're very clearly dedicated to what they're doing, and I was like, I'm gonna come here when I have time, and I know that what I'm gonna get, and I'm gonna be patient and let them do what they do. It was just a really, really exciting experience. I really want to talk to you guys more, but I have to go. She's holding things to stop. Thank you very much.